Hello, my name is Jay and welcome to the PBJ series of channels. This is the Projects by Jay channel. This video is a how-to on making this wooden compass. Part of this video includes the use of epoxy resin as part of the build. I ended up doing 3 pours of this resin, and the first pour was so cloudy I could not see through it. The second pour, the resin got under the wood and lifted it off the bottom on one side of the form, causing a very uneven pour. This means I made this compass 3 times. This video was referenced in a how not to video that I made when I was attempting to fill a knot hole in this cherry wood shelf. If you are watching this on YouTube, there should be a link to that video up there somewhere. If you came here from that cherry shelf video looking for the epoxy part, there is a timestamp saying when that portion begins if you want to skip to that. If you like what I'm doing, please smash the like button, click the subscribe button, and share these videos. Don't forget to click the notification bell icon so you can get notified whenever I upload fresh content. And please leave a comment about what you liked or didn't like, just be respectful. Safety. When you are working with tools, make sure you read and understand all the instructions and directions that come with your tools, powered or otherwise. Better to be safe than hurt. And always wear proper PPE, whether that is dust protection, hearing protection, eye protection in the shop, and always have a cell phone with you so you can call and summon aid if you need to. At this time, I have no sponsors or endorsements. When that happens, I will let my viewers know by updating any posted videos if somehow they get sponsorship. And for anyone watching this that is looking for someone to sponsor, I am open to discussing sponsorships with any company that treats customers fairly, with respect and dignity, and that makes sense on this platform. Lastly, enjoy. Life is supposed to be fun, and as I tell my family, never underestimate the importance of happiness in your life. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy what you see. I'm getting ready to start working on the epoxy part of this project. I've taken polyurethane and put 2 coats on the entire surface. Found a piece of this 1x trim, put it into my miter box, and I cut off 4 pieces to make a frame for the wooden compass. I'm probably just going to go ahead and nail it together. Since I'm planning on cutting all of this off on the bandsaw anyway, so that I have a circle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this directly to my project. And that way I'll know that I've got a tight seal all the way around all 4 sides. I'm going to be using a 23 gauge pin nailer. One of the properties of these pin nailers is that the nails that they fire are extremely thin, extremely small, and they have a heat activated adhesive on them that when you drive a nail, that heat activated adhesive is what helps keep the nail in place. It helps connect the pieces, it keeps the pieces of wood nailed together. Start by preloading this wood a little bit. Now when you drive these, you do not want your fingers in the way anywhere where those nails might possibly come out. So if you are using a 1-inch nail, you probably should keep your fingers at least 2 inches away. Now I'm just going to go ahead and continue to put this together. So the last thing I did in my mold was to put silicone caulk along the bottom corners and in the side corners, all four corners, so that this is now going to be sealed. I know it is kind of sloppy, but as long as I have roughly a 1/4 inch around all four sides, because I'm going to cut a circle out afterwards, as long as I have that gap, I should be okay. Now it's time to start mixing the epoxy. So I've got a scale, I've got some gloves, I've got a mask, some containers, some sticks, part A, part B, and I also have a level so that I can check, and I've already put some sticky notes and some other stuff underneath the edges so I can get it nice and level. I'm going to put on my gloves. And I'm going to use 2 cups. I'm going to use 1 cup for each, but I'm going to final pour with this one. Let me zero this out. Start with my resin, part A. I'm going to put about 4 ounces. I'm going to do 2 ounces of hardener. And then the last thing I'm going to do is pour B into A, stir it for 5 minutes. Hey Siri, give me a 5-minute timer. And now I'm going to stir this for 5 minutes. And hopefully this will be better than the other one for 2 reasons. First of all, it's a larger pour. And secondly, it's warmer out. I do not know if you can tell or not, the rose compass here looks a little different. The reason is because the epoxy pour from the first one I did failed. It was a total disaster. So I remade it a little differently. I cut the individual diamonds, which are 2 half triangles. I cut them out as individual pieces. I use maple burl for the light color, walnut burl for the dark. The 3 lighter woods, I actually don't know what they are. And this is Padauk again. So the next thing, I went out and got from Hobby Lobby some amazing deep pour. I did not realize the deep pour epoxy required up to like 6 or 7 days to fully cure, but it'll be okay from a tax standpoint. I think the instructions come for the epoxy in English, and I think this is French. The cure time for this, 24 to 48 hours is the initial cure, but the full cure is 5 to 7 days. And that's at 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. In the previous video when I talked about epoxies, I did mention that the epoxies come in different ratios. The previous epoxies that I have used, the Total Boat and the regular Amazing Clear Cast, which unfortunately has already yellowed, and so for this particular project, since it's already yellowed, that's why I went out and got the new stuff. But this is deep pour, but you can see the size difference in the bottles. This particular epoxy mixture is 2 to 1, so you put 2 parts of part A, which this is the resin, and 1 part B, which is the hardener, and this is mixed by volume. Again, work time 60 to 90 minutes, tack-free times 24 to 72 hours, cure time 5 to 7 days, says it right on the bottles. The mix ratio 2 to 1 by volume is also there. And that's important. Some epoxies could be 2 by 1 by volume. Some epoxies are 2 by 1 by weight. So you want to make sure which way it's being measured. Is it weight or volume? I've got my hot glue gun heated up. It's now dripping some glue. So I'm going to hot glue these pieces onto the edges of my block. Everything's been coated with a couple layers of polyurethane to help keep the epoxy from sticking. So the mold has dried and it's pretty stiff. I'm going to go ahead and put the double stick tape in and drop this in. And this is just to keep the compass from floating on the liquid epoxy. So you press this down nice and tight. I have my epoxy poured out. It's a 2 to 1 ratio. So I have, this is the resin and these are the hardener. So I'm using 3 cups to 1.5 cups. I'm going to pour this all together. I'm going to start for 5 minutes and then I'm going to pour it into my mold. You have to start for the full 5 minutes. Minute 50 to go. So at this point, the question is, how did the epoxy turn out? So in the first one I did, there we go, this is the first one I did. The epoxy was cloudy. I tried to see if I could do something about it. I could not. It just turned out to be horrible. I ended up ripping this piece off of the Padauk, and I'm going to use this for an additional one. The second one I did, I attempted to build a frame with a piece of plywood. Unfortunately, the epoxy got underneath the project, lifted the project up, and all the epoxy was on the bottom, not the top, so that was epoxy attempt number 2. And now I have epoxy attempt number 3. And I think this one's better. I'm going to go ahead and cut it out now. This is a gift for my stepson's birthday, and that's today. I'm not going to get to be able to finish it all, but I am going to cut it out now so at least I can give it to him and he can see it. So I'm going to do that on the bandsaw. As with the use of all power tools, of course I'm going to have my safety glasses, my respiratory protection, and my hearing protection on. I'm also going to turn on the dust collection. Okay. So there is my rose compass. I still have to cut this out into a circle and then attach a piece of leather to the back to hold it in place. So the next part of the compass rose is to cut this out in a circle. I have my jig set up where I put my table saw, rip fence locked in place so that it's exactly the same distance away from the edge of my saw bed as the thickness of my piece of plywood. I've cut a kerf down so that again I match up with the edge at the bottom of the edge of the table saw bed, and then I measured exactly 2 1/4 inches from the edge of the blade, put a spot, squared it up, measured to make sure it was exactly at the edge here, and drew a nail. This is nail, I measured it, it's 1/16 of an inch thick, so I drilled a 1/16 of an inch hole in the back of my rose compass, and then I lined it up, made sure it was fitting properly, marked my north, drew an outline here so I can line this up again properly. And so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to push this forward while the saw is running. Once I get to the proper place, I'm going to take these F clamps and clamp this down, and then I'm going to slowly turn this in the form of a circle so it cuts the shape of the circle on the compass. Now let me take off my sweater. My shirt, I don't want any loose sleeves. It's a little cool today here in Florida, so let me get my breathing protection, my hearing protection. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my dust collection and my bandsaw. I'm going to slowly push this forward till it lines up. I'm going to lock on my F clamps, and then I'm going to turn this and make my circle cut. So let's see how that works out. Lung protection, hearing protection, eye protection, and these are safety glasses. Now, the one thing that I really did wrong for safety purposes is my blade guard was way up too high. This actually happened because I raised it up so I could clean the blade, but it seemed to have worked okay. There is my round rose compass. But now sand it, put the base on it, polyurethane the edge, and put the base on it, and I think it'll be done. I've sanded this down to 800 grit all the way around the edge. Now I'm going to take a piece of this leather. I'm going to start by cutting it to rough shape, and then I'm going to put some contact cement and adhere it, and then after it dries I will go ahead and carve it to the perfect size. I am going to be putting the rough side of the leather down so that it kind of helps keep it from sliding around. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'm going to do that off the cutting off camera. Hi, I'm on the back porch, and I just wanted to give a quick update on the rose compass project. Anyway, it is done. I've got the leather on the back for the padding. The way this was done, I had to change the frame a little bit. The first frame I made, and this was the cutout from the Padauk disc, the first frame I made was good for the leather, but it was too tight for the disc itself. So I pulled that apart, I remade it. And then what you do is you put contact cement stuff here. It's not a sponsored video, but you put contact cement on both sides of your project. So I put some on the leather and I put some on the wood, and then you wait a minimum of 15 minutes, no more than 2 hours, and then you press them together, and as soon as these two pieces touch each other, that's it. They are locked together. So if you make a mistake, I really don't know how hard it is to get this stuff apart, but I can tell you it is definitely not easy. So I did come off my mark a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and get a razor knife and trim this, but otherwise this is done and ready to go to the client, who in a way is my wife and my stepson, because my wife asked me to make this for my stepson for his birthday. I will post some of these pictures of this on Facebook.